Hello, I'm the anime hero. I review anime so you can enjoy it, and today I have a guest slash friend here, Deadmeister.
Hello everyone, I'm your Deadmeister, and this is the first time I've actually been on these things, because I've mostly seen you and Falcon do these all the time.
Yeah.
You mostly do these with Falcon,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a special occasion.
Yeah, because guests, I don't know, I wanted it to be a recurring thing where guests would show up, because so far the only other people that were here was Merlin, Lunar, and Random Anime. But yeah, but hopefully this will become a trend. What we're gonna talk about today is actually the very first series of Gatchaman, and I'm assuming that we're gonna start off first, just like giving you the basics, and maybe we'll go into spoiler heavy territory later.
Yeah, definitely, because there's a lot I want to talk about.
Yeah, alright. But before we go into Gatchaman, can you tell us about yourself, Deadmeister, to the people that don't know you on this channel?
Trust me, there is a lot.
Oh.
Well, what I do is that, I'm just a person who just does videos, just simply, I just put on a webcam and I just go with it. I basically do, DM recommendations. I used to do episode reviews, but that kinda got repetitive after a while. I do haul videos, and sometimes I do DM explanations where I just give my thoughts on things, and kind of like, it was similar to another YouTuber, which had explanations in the title, but I put DM so it doesn't have to be too copycat reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, and I also do there are other things I want to try out, so pretty much I just put up a webcam and I just go for it. There's no editing. When I have to go get something, you see me physically get my ass out of the chair and just go get it, and then I come back.
Yeah, doing the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, and I haven't edited shit in I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So a bit rusty on that part. So that's all. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Okay. Oh, sorry if I sound sleepy, because that's actually because I am. Because recently I've been getting in a sleepy mood around this time, when the previous week it would take me the following morning for me to get sleepy. But yeah, anyways, I'll pull it forward.
I've been having a lot of sleeping issues as well. I mean, there are some times where my mom is kind of what happened? Did you drink too much soda? I have insomnia. Oh.
I remember that show.
So yeah.
Yeah, but
we're two guys with insomnia.
Yeah, getting to Gatchaman, because I don't remember, did you started watching it because I started talking about it, or was it or have you already heard of Gatchaman beforehand?
I have heard of Gatchaman from the guy who inspired me to become a YouTuber when he was talking about Jiwario.
Ah, yeah.
I already learned about Gatchaman through him, and also I learned about it from this guy called Turpentine, who made a list of top 10 top 10 in 2 parts American anime openings. But I don't know. I haven't heard from that guy in years. But I never really knew. But Gatchaman looked pretty cool, but I wasn't interested at the time because back then I wasn't really interested in anime from the 70s. But now I've gotten older, and now that I know there was an uncut dub of Gatchaman, I thought it didn't exist. But then, you kind of showed me that it did exist. It was just, but from watching it online, it was kind of hard to find. But there was one source.
Yeah, and also it's pretty expensive purchase to get if you want to buy the original Gatchaman.
And if you want to buy it on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
I can tell you that for damn sure. But now that I have seen the entire thing, I'm actually really, really glad I saw it, because it's easily become a recent personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, because there are times where I'm thinking that I want to put it above Fist and North Star sometimes, but I don't know. I don't know. It's trying to fight the number 1 spot.
Yeah, there are some times. I do say that it is a personal favorite of mine, but I just say it's kind of in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in my top 5. Probably it might be, I don't know, 4 or 3. I really do not know.
Yeah. I don't really remember myself, like, when I first heard of Gatchaman, because more than likely I heard of, like, some form of parody or the other dub formats.
Yeah, and then there was, like, the Robot Chicken skit.
Yeah, well, that I didn't know until you showed me that, so, yeah, that was
I remember I've seen that skit, like, numerous times on Robot Chicken, and now that I actually know about its origins, and then there was, like, where's the robot guy? And but we're gonna get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, we should actually give introductions to what Gatchaman is. So, I feel like I was gonna bring up something before we swap the talk, because I was trying to remember, like, where did I first heard about it, because I think my first exposure to it might have been, like, an episode of Megas XLR. I forgot which one, but I know there was, like, a Gatchaman-ish Super Sentai team in there, so maybe that's where I first came across it, I'm not sure.
And Gatchaman was actually the inspiration for the first Super Sentai series, and it's Sentai Go Ranger.
Yeah.
And then also, well, in Go Ranger, okay, I'm just gonna get down this way. In Go Ranger and in the second one, Jaka, they didn't really use a mech, they only used, like, an aircraft, which is very reminiscent of, like, because the Gatchaman used the God Phoenix, and, in 1991, there was the 1991 Super Sentai series, Chojin Sentai Jetman. That one did the vice versa, where it was mostly heavily inspired from Gatchaman, because, well, it was Berg themed, and it had some of the archetypes that were from Gatchaman.
Yeah, there's a lot of historical connections between Gatchaman and then all subsequent Ranger series.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's also, like, things that other tokusatsu stuff borrowed from, like,
Gatchaman.
like, from Gatchaman, like, the idea of having, like, because later on in part 2, you'll see more of, like, how Joe the Condor ends up doing a lot of solo missions. And it kind of has that. Then again, Red Impulse started the role earlier, where there was just, like, this mysterious character that would help him out every now and then. It's like, who is that guy? And then in just about every, like, Super Sentai show, there's always that one extra dude and wondering, who is he?
Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah, but anyway, so what is Gatchaman? The most basic way is that it's a superhero anime from the 70s, and it's going strong. I want to say it's going strong, mostly in Japan, because of the it's more than 50 years old. Well, it will be 50 years old pretty soon, or maybe it is. Let me see, 82, 92, 2002, 2012. Yeah, in 2022, then that's when it'll be 50 years old.
Yeah, yep. They might. I don't know what they're gonna do by then. Might make a reboot, or I don't know what. Who kind of knows what they're gonna do?
Yeah,
with
I'm hoping something good, because most people will be familiar with the name Gatchaman from two places, I think. One would be of Tatsunoko versus Capcom, that game for the Nintendo Wii, and the other place would be Gatchaman Crowds, which, the only connection really is in name dropping, and that's about it.
Just name dropping. I kind of did the same. The thing is that I've not really watched a single episode of Gatchaman Crowds, because the character design that really has the most baffled is Berg Katze's design in that show. I'm just like...
Well, firstly, I think it could work. It works, but the thing is, it's not used the way... Well, basically, a lot of the things aren't used like the way the original Gatchaman is. Because, to sum it up, Crowds is like... If people are wondering, is there any connection between the two? Is it a sequel? No, it's not a sequel. Is it a reboot? Not exactly. Is it a spin-off? Maybe. I don't know, because there's some characters that are kind of the same, but they really not. If it weren't for the name, they really would have no connection or association to the whole Gatchaman stuff. Because the Berg Katze design in Crowds, it could work if that's what it looks like under the mask. And especially when you find out by the end of the first Gatchaman about the whole, hermaphrodite thing that he has.
I am kind of aware of the identity of Katze.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, that it would make sense for him, that's what it would look like under the mask, but Berg Katze there is like a very different entity. He's a lot more flamboyant there compared to...
I actually do remember, like, it's in the later episodes where he busts in, and then the last thing he says is, "Can I get a whoop whoop?"
Yeah. Yeah, because that's one fun thing about Berkatse is that it's Ed Neal, he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a couple other stuff. So yeah. So
that's the thing when it comes to dubs of like older anime is that they tend to like improvise. Like they say after saying something, they kind of say something. Well, I guess I got to do this thing, and
yeah, Berkatse is pretty fun in the dub because that's one example of the differences between like the original Gatchaman Berkatse and then Crowd's Berkatse because it's like they're trying to replicate that. I don't know. It's kind of weird because I think the way Berkatse acts, like in the I think it's mostly a dub thing where he's a bit more, lively as he is, but in Crowds, it's like they're really trying to make him like this very like super fabulous flamboyant character. But David Wald's performance as him, it could kind of it's a little all over the place.
You mean is that the ADV Films voice actor?
Yeah, the one David Wald is the Gogo 13.
Actually, for a second. Oh yeah. Actually, when I first heard that, I was not sure if that was Vic Mignogna, because because his voice acting for Berg Katze really does sound like that.
Yeah, because the Crowd's Katze is like all. The thing is, he has a habit of like flipping switches. I guess like doing a bunch of mood swings. So I don't know whether I can call it acting or just playing around, like in the booth. Because it did show that David has like a lot of vocal range, but at the same time, I don't know whether to like
you don't know when to take him seriously or not. So.
Yeah, because it comes off as pretty silly because flips around with his emotions so much that it kind of becomes like somewhat predictable and zany. Is that he'll be talking all nice and smoothly, but then he gets angry and he starts raising his voice. So he would flip flop like a lot. So I don't know whether it's that really a like can you call that acting per se? Because
improvisation.
Yeah. And then the other. Like Edward Neal's Berkatse, just something about it just felt natural. Like he wasn't like he didn't just like switch gears like from 1 to 100 that quickly. It would be like gradual. But then again, it also depends on the writing of the character because they're both Berkatses are different. And we shouldn't be talking about the main villain right off the bat. We should have been talking about the main freaking the main fucking characters. Okay, so the point is
because
the point is Crowds is like. It really should not have Gatchaman in its name at all, with all honesty.
Yeah. I mean, let's get to the heroes, because that's the main drive of the series.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, or do you want to list them all?
I might go first. First of all, there's the leader of the team, Ken. When I first watched the series, I thought he'd be like, I'm the heroic leader. Nothing bad's gonna happen to me. Yeah, nothing bad at all. And when I first watched the series and the first two episodes in, I surprisingly liked him a lot more than I expected.
Yeah.
And also, first off, I do like his English. I do like his ADV Films voice actor. He does fit the role pretty well, and I do know that he's also the English dub voice of Takashi from High School Dead.
Yeah, more people know him from that more than anything.
Yeah, but I actually did see him in an interview, and he stated that Ken the Eagle was easily his favorite performance.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I really like about Ken as well, in the first series, is because he does actually feel like a leader. But he's not a perfect one. Later along the line where, we know more about him, and, he lost his father when he was young, and, but then when he starts growing, like, the bond with Red Impulse, and then, after episode 50, we'll kind of get into that spoiler territory a little later, after the shit that happened with him and Red Impulse, and, let's just say that, Ken doesn't really, it's just, like I said, he's not the perfect leader. I mean, after the shit with Red Impulse, his emotions start getting the better of him, and he's just like, I'm gonna have Galactor, dead, no matter what. and I'm gonna do anything I can to make that happen. And his rage gets so blinded with rage, he tends to forget that, well, that they're all in this together. Like, he can't overly rely on just himself on taking down Galactor, and especially in that episode that openly displays that. I especially like the part where he freaking tortures that Galactor henchman. And another favorite moment of Ken is the episode where Ryu is very worried about his father's health, and then the part or the clip you showed me, where he just goes off on Nanbu, and then he says,
"There's no excuse for being late. You cannot let personal problems interfere with your duty. We have been entrusted to protect the peace of the entire world."
Won't you even try to understand what happened with us?
I don't want excuses, I want accountability.
What's all this we anyway? What's your part? Galactor has shown up. Deploy immediately. Galactor is attacked. Go! Go! You just give the orders. We're the ones who have to carry them out. We're not robots. We're people with lives and problems and real flesh and blood.
Ken, please stop.
That's definitely one of the best scenes of the whole series.
Yeah, and that does openly display that, well, and that's what I really love about Ken, is that, well, again, he's a very strong leader. Again, he's not the perfect one. His emotions do get the better of him, and also, again, shit happened with Red Impulse and the stuff he learns. I mean, let's just say that's a lot to take, and all we can say about him, it's a lot to take in, and you thoroughly understand what he's going through, and that's why I do really like Ken the Eagle.
Yeah, Ken the Eagle gradually grew on me because in the first series, Ken the Eagle's the main focus out of especially the first 5 episodes. It's focused mostly on him, and then the focus is gradually increases more and more every couple of episodes, especially by the halfway point in episode 50. That's all Ken the Eagle, and then towards the end of it, towards the end, the focus starts shifting to another character, but it's kind of weird because in part 1 it's mostly Ken the Eagle, part 2 is mostly Joe the Condor, and then part 3 it's mostly back to Ken, I say.
Yeah.
But I guess I'll take the next one with Joe the Condor.
Oh yeah, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe the Condor.
Actually, I think I'll go first on this one. Joe the Condor, he's another let's just say it's really hard to say who's my favorite because Ken and Joe are easily the most iconic of the team. Joe, pretty much, I thought he was just going to be like the typical, I'm the rebellious one. I often butt heads with the leader, and I butt heads with the leader, and it often results in us kind of fighting each other rather than fighting the enemy. In the beginning of the series, it's not really the case. They do get along pretty well. That mainly occurs around the last half of the series, but it's kind of more for an understandable reason. And for those who've actually seen the end of the series, you probably already know what I'm talking about. And I do really like the arc that he got in the final half of the series, and understand the reasoning behind his actions. And well, like with Ken, he wants Galactor dead more than anyone. But with Joe, he lost his parents to Galactor. And it's just a bunch of development from there, because I could probably go on for hours about Joe the Condor.
I guess I'll take it then. Yeah, because the thing is with Joe, it's kind of weird because he doesn't do much right off the bat. He's in the beginning episodes, he's mostly known for as the guy that pushes the buttons for the bird missiles. And
I still never think of bird missiles.
It's a little weird because he only has little moments every now and then from episode to episode. He never takes the full episode for himself until later parts in the show, and definitely by the end of it, where Joe just steals the spotlight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll do June the Swan. Well, technically, I can kind of do June the Swan and Jinpei since they're kind of pretty close together.
Yeah, I like June. She didn't really get that much in the first. In the first series, she doesn't really get that much. I mean, she did have an episode where she was with that biker guy that kind of connected to her past.
Yeah.
But for the majority, I do think she's a good character, and I'm sorry to kind of bring this. I know I kind of spoken this up before, but I'm kind of sorry. I can't help myself. Well, hey, at least June is actually useful and serves more of a plot to she serves a lot more of a purpose to the story than some other characters I know.
Yeah.
Hiyori.
Yeah, I know. Well, anyways, with
I'm sorry. I kind of had to.
Mm-hmm.
Move on.
Yeah. The thing is with June the Swan is that, well, it's kind of the same for the other three characters. That they don't really get that many moments compared to Joe and Ken, especially a lot of the more emotional scenes. Because
I do say that. I say out of Ken and Joe, I think the one that does get a decent amount would be Ryu because, because in that one episode where they're fighting off against that elderly marksman, and he's like,
But why, Ken? Why do I always get left behind while you guys fight?
Well, it's because we're orphans. If we die, there's no one who'd shed tears. But you've got a mother, father, and little brother back home. No matter what, you've got to stay alive for them. Never forget that!
and like they said, Ryu's the only one that still has a family. Well, we already know because, well, his dad is kind of, his dad is kind of deathly ill, but he still has a brother, and I don't really know if he has a mom or not.
I don't know. Actually, it's kind of weird because they do appear again in part 2, but I'm pretty sure that Ryu's family doesn't make any appearance at all in the third part.
Yeah, so that pretty much does it for the other three members of the Gatchaman.
Well, we didn't. We kind of ignored somebody. We didn't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because so the thing is, June, like, she adopts like this one boy, which was Jinpei, and then there's a bit of a continuity error because they say that Jinpei in the early episodes, Jinpei says that he was like a descendant of the Iga ninja, but then how do you know that for sure if you're an orphan? Which kind of gets questioned later. It gets questioned in later episodes about that. I'm thinking because I'm also kind of wondering how old was June when she adopted Jinpei? Like how long ago was that when all this shit was going down? And then
that is a pretty glaring plot hole right there. Now that I think about it, but at the same time. Well, I previously said that Jinpei was kind of my least favorite because, well, he was kind of just the annoying kid of the group, but he's kind of grown on me. I mean, you do kind of, he is, when I first heard him in the ADV Films Up, I couldn't help but say, hey, Lucy Christian.
Yeah. I think that was actually one of her earlier, like, boyish roles, because the only other one I could think of from that time was, like, Ellie Ragu from Shadow Skill.
Oh, yeah, it's obvious to say he's the youngest of the group.
It's kind of weird because what he adds to the group is like something completely different. Because you got Ken the leader, Joe the racer / marksman, and then with June you got the explosives expert, and then they all specialize in hand to hand. Ryu, you got pilots. He's the one in charge flying the ship. Jinpei, he adds a child demographic, I guess. Because within the show, he's mainly there, like, to... It's kind of weird, because technically they're all, like, pretty young, like, 18, 19-year-old characters, and they're all growing.
And June's 16.
Yeah, June is the young... No, she's the second youngest, like, of the group. But, but that's a 16-year-old they need to support. Like, she's a single mom, she's got to take care of, like, Jinpei, the bar, and, and then all this other shit. When she gets older, she becomes legal later.
Remember, this was the 70s.
Yeah, then also Japan, with whatever laws they have over there. But what I'm trying to get is that Jinpei is supposed to have that, the child's perspective of him, like, learning up, he needs to mature and grow up, that type of thing, leave the nest. But that same thing kind of applies to Ken the Eagle, that he needs to, like, grow up. And then June, I feel like June is the most grown up out of the 5 just because she has, like, little brother / son to take care of.
I do feel like she's kind of just the mom of that team because she's kind of like the nanny of that team because
the whole mom nanny thing, that's actually something that happens in part 2. That's a different... a new character gets brought up. Her name is Dr. Pandora. So she's actually pretty important in the second series.
Okay, let's talk about Dr. Nanbu.
Yeah, Dr. Nanbu and his, glasses and mustache. Yeah.
don't fuck with the professor and the glasses and mustache. Yeah. I know that for damn sure.
Yeah, his glasses that don't have fucking whatever those things are called that you put on your ears, to hold them up. They just stick to his nose, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, first of all, I do like it. I really do like his ADV Films voice actor. It really fits the character.
Yeah, Science Ninja Team.
Yeah.
I pray for your success.
Yeah. And, but there are times where he does. But there, of course, later in the series, there were the times where they do kind of butt heads against Nanbu, even though, of course, we're not machine, we're humans with lives episode. Well, he can be kind of strict sometimes when it comes to, well, of course, when Ryu's dad is not doing so well. He openly says, you can't have your personal lives interfere with taking down Galactor. But he's still a great mentor to the team.
His best moments, I don't want to spoil anything, but his best moment is in the third series where he, halfway through it, he just becomes super active in Gatchaman F.
So what you're saying is that in the future series, he actually does join some of the fights.
Yeah, in a way, because in the first series it was mostly, he did provide how to defeat the enemy, the ideas for that, and obviously giving the orders and exposition so we can all understand. And in part two, he doesn't really do much because he does move up in rank in terms of whatever position he had. But I'm really trying to remember, but I don't recall him doing so much in part two because. Then again, that's when they introduced Dr. Pandora, and she sort of kind of takes away the spotlight from Nanbu, because she is pretty important. And then in Gatchaman F, that's when Dr. Nanbu really does a lot of
he does a lot more than just sit and give orders. So.
Yeah, he put his life on the line in a couple of episodes. So I'm just gonna say that there was one episode in particular that is just so fucking emotional where he gets he basically gets tortured. By this, he gets tortured with this hallucinogen, with this type of drug that's sort of supposed to make him crazy, and it's surprising how much willpower he has and how he gets out of that situation. It's just so fucking cool.
What episode is that from first, second, or third series?
That's the third series, so it's pretty deep into the third series. Also, it's heading to its finale. That type of the last. Somewhere between the last 20 or 15 episodes is when the Dr. Nanbu does some stuff, and it's a pretty good scene.
Now we've talked about our main cast. What are some things we can... What are some...
we could explain that, the whole purpose of Science Ninja Team is that they need to fight the terrorist organization Galactor who want to conquer / destroy the world, or whatever motive they have. Yeah.
Episode 1 to 49 is pretty much kind of just... just fun. It's just fun superhero action. But like we previously said, around episode 50 is when it gradually starts to get more serious in tone. Galactor become more of a legitimate threat. These guys really do want to destroy the Earth.
Yeah, because before we had episodes where they steal all the world's sugar.
I remember that.
Yeah, because it's so weird, because the previous episode before that, I'm pretty sure was something very serious, and then it's we're gonna steal all the world's sugar. What?
I think the only redeeming fact of that scheme is that that at least there's gonna be less people with type 2 diabetes.
I guess.
That's probably the only redeeming factor about that. I'm not meaning to offend anybody, but that just saying. Anywho, but there are some times where, when we do learn about, in that one part where the Galactor actually does succeed for once, when they build, that device up in space where it kind of wreaks havoc all over the Earth, and, then we learn that, is it okay if we get into spoiler territory about this point?
I think we could still avoid it for a bit longer, because so a lot of the beginning of Galactor is that they usually, send their Iron Beast mecha, so that's where it gets super episodic, because they do range in quality from legitimate threats to some very over the top designs. Because there was one episode where Berg Katze steals a band, a rock band, so they can operate this mecha that's plays these.
I don't think I remember that episode, because to be frankly honest, when I heard. You kind of already told me that it doesn't get serious around episode 50. Once I got to, like, episode 31, after I finished episode 31, I kind of skipped all the way to episode 50 because I wasn't really missing it. I'm just going to say that right now because everything to that point there's nothing really plot related.
No, they're just like more like character moments more than anything, or because
it's mostly just character moments. And I would say, for my advice, I would just say you can watch episode 1 to 49 if you like. If you take my personal opinion, I'd say get around like episode 30-ish, 30 or 31, and then just go straight to episode 50 because I think that's the more logical sense. Just watch a good portion of episode to get familiar with the characters, and then just go straight to 50.
Yeah, because there's clearly like episodes that are designed just to be like just your run of the mill episode, and there's other ones that have the character moments, but then there's the ones that are definitely more plot related because like I'm pretty sure there's other Red Impulse appearances between like the 30s and 50s. I'm pretty basically it is possible to make a playlist of Gatchaman episodes that are like the most relevant because even because even after you pass the once you go beyond the 50s and all the way clear to the hundreds or whatever, like there's still some episodes that are not that important compared to like some other ones.
I'd say this is probably the only time I'm going to bring it up. In the very first episode of Gatchaman, the first Galactor mech, they fight the Turtle King, which also did also make a reappearance in the 90s OVA. So, looking at his design, tell me that does not look like Magira from Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
Yeah, I was thinking that when I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, the design looks so strikingly familiar, but this came back in, like, 72, but Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla came out in, like, 94, so probably there was a lot of inspiration from that. So.
Yeah, because one thing I was kind of surprised about with Gatchaman is that it's 1972, and I don't think Mazinger Z was even made yet, so, like, the fact that you had this villain with Iron Beast mechas...
Yeah, that's the first Kamen Rider came out in 1971, and with Gatchaman, that was like the big Toku boom of the early 70s. I think that does make a lot of sense why Magira's design was inspired from Turtle King. I can see why that design was so influential.
Yeah, I guess we should have mentioned this earlier. Well, we talked about it at the very beginning, but here's a more formal introduction. Galactor is ruled by, I guess, two people.
By a mysterious being known as Leader X, which is probably the most mysterious character in the entire series. I think even more mysterious than Red Impulse.
Yeah, because Leader X, I'll get into Leader X a bit, but basically he sort of acts as that trope where you have like this evil villain on the monitor, kind of thing.
Yeah, he's just the evil galactic emperor of Galactor, where he's the guy that keeps like the guy that was supposed to be the main villain on chains. About him is that we rarely know anything about him.
There's some stuff that happens later, like in 2 and 3, that kind of like raises questions in his objective, because it seems to flip-flop, or either that or they forgot. Because towards the end of Gatchaman, the first series, they mentioned that he wanted like a certain planet, and then when that planet was gone, he just left Earth, and then he comes back in part 2, and then for some reason he wants to destroy the Earth, but don't get a reason why he wants to destroy the Earth. And then the same thing happens in part F, or the third series, where you have Leader Z, and Leader Z's like, I want to blow up the planet, but why? They never go into that depth. Because I don't know whether it's like something to do with like Tatsunoko Productions at the time, because the same thing happened with the Tekkaman anime, where like planet Earth's already dying, yet the Waldaster want to conquer it. But you never get a reason why they want to conquer a dying planet. And then
that's kind of weird. That's weird in some degree.
Yeah, and then things get contradicted too, because I mean the fact that in the first Gatchaman, Leader X said when he was studying for Katze, you become Leader Z, and he said that Leader Z is a code name for like to kill. And I'm kind of wondering, so why is this guy called Leader Z then? Like if it meant the.
I also really like the parts where, well, no matter how much Katze does something right, he still kind of shits on him.
Yeah.
And I really like them. I don't know, I just really enjoy those parts. Like, hey, I built this doomsday machine, now half Earth crumbling in a second. Wow, you actually did something right for once. You're an asshole, you know that?
Yeah, just like, can I get a, like, you know, I got a gold medal, like, hey, attaboy, Katze. It's like, just something, you know? Just, come on, say something. Yeah, so Berg Katze, let's formally introduce him, is that he's sort of like the somewhat of a representative of Galactor. He's like the second in command, the herald, like the Silver Surfer to the to Galactus. So, oh, see, it all goes full circle. You know, Galactor and So yeah, Berg Katze is sort of like that guy that leads all the other troops and everything, but he is like a bit of a cowardly asshole. He just can't help but like. Because, I mean, he always leaves his henchmen behind and leaves them to die.
Especially, also, that's another point I like to bring up is because some of the cliches. Since Gatchaman is kind of like a superhero anime from like the 70s, it kind of does some tropes that you would never really see in superhero anime at the time. Like every time when Katze gets away, when their iron mech gets destroyed. Like in the beginning of the series, they're just like, Katze gets away, we'll get him next time. And then at the later series, they're just like, well, fuck it, we're going after him.
Yeah, it's like, you know what, the episode just starts off like we're the ending of another episode. Like, the Iron Beast mech is already destroyed, and then he's flying out, he's like, no, we're gonna get him. And then it's like, fuck, we didn't get him.
The first time when they actually bother going after the guy while he's escaping.
We become self-aware of our episodic nature. It's like, we're not doing this episode. No, we're breaking the mold today.
Yeah, and then there's that one episode later in the series where they find another Galactor mech, but even Ken points out that even if we destroy it, Galactor will just make another one.
Then Katze like, it takes fucking forever to die. It's like, there was one episode where, I think it's the one about the Arabian prince where he was, you know, masquerading as that guy's father, and then he just falls off, like, from a huge height, like, down to the burning city, and it's like, then the next time he shows up, it's like, oh, I'm surprised you survived that, Katze. And
then there was the one episode where, like, Ken goes into that, like, coma, I'm gonna have that big quotations, where then he wakes up and then he sees that the Earth has become nothing but a desolate wasteland, and then he learns that Galactor actually did conquer the Earth. Even though you may know if you've seen the episode, you may know what happens, but for a second there, I honestly did kind of think that Galactor did actually win.
Because they are, like, legit threat. I mean, after a while, they start being called terrorists rather than just, you know, super villains or whatever. No, they do straight up call them, you damn terrorist scum, bastards, all that shit.
But in the back of my head, I did kind of feel like, oh man, maybe they did actually win.
I think what like really convinced like the viewer that maybe this is really happening is when they stop at Red Impulse's grave. Yeah, because I think that scene was like, holy shit, like, what's even worse when they see the graves of the other people, it's like, oh no, and...
Oh man, why are you doing this today?
Yeah, then I guess Nanbu too, so like, you know, just see him, like, you know, they all...
Still a great episode, by the way. Another thing that they did kind of tackle when it comes to an early superhero anime is, and I do remember the episode, it was episode 97, where they fight off that totem mech, Galactor totem mech.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they went with that decision. But mainly it was the end of the episode that really kind of got me, where, like, the guy that was involved, one of the guys that was involved, he openly, after they defeated Galactor, he points to the village that's going up in flames, openly says, you guys are the heroes, but once you start fighting against the villain, then you tend to forget that innocents get caught in the crossfire.
And then the episode ends like, you need to win this war. I'm like, well...
But I really like when superhero series or movies kind of tackle that need. Do it a little bit in Captain America Civil War, where, yeah, you may be superheroes and you're just fighting against the supervillains, but if something like this keeps up, the casualties, they will rise. And that's another thing that Gatchaman does really well, mainly by episode 50, is that being a superhero, it has its rewards, but it also has its consequences.
Yeah, because I think the length of the series for being like, well, over 200 episodes long, like, really adds, like, how great their struggle is, because it's very, like, pretty draining, really. Every day they have to, like, fight against Galactor, and then it's like it's almost like a never-ending battle. I think that's the reason why they describe it as a war.
Just something that it just never ends.
Yeah.
It's just something that, I think that's the reason why they kept calling out their cliches, because, well, it's just a never-ending cycle of fighting and fighting and fighting, to the point where...
Yeah, they're getting frustrated by it, so that's... Yeah, that's something that you don't really see, is that they're actually acknowledging that, this is happening too much. We're getting frustrated by it. It's like, how can we keep going? It kind of actually ends in the very final episode of Gatchaman F. Let's leave it at that. We got some peace.
It's like that one moment in episode 2 of season 5 of Samurai Jack, like, how long can you keep this up?
Yeah, because I remember there were some episodes even in the first series where Ken the Eagle was like, thinking about calling it quits or something, but then he picks himself back up.
But then there's Joe, on the other hand, where, if you know, in the later series, he starts developing, brain damage, and that episode where he kind of gets that metal piece stuck in his head, he still fights even though he's in a very bad condition. He still fights Galactor. He doesn't want to reveal his condition to anybody because then he has to quit Gatchaman, and he doesn't want to do that because of, obviously he wants to see Galactor dead more than anything.
It's kind of interesting how the henchmen for Galactor start off as like, just simple, generic, just the average thug, but then after a while you get like some goofy ones. But even when it's kind of like ironic because when the characters are more goofy, they're actually more threatening in that series somehow.
Yeah, and also another thing, I can't believe I keep bringing this up, I also really like in the ADV films that some of them actually get like very over-the-top accents, like...
Yeah.
Like, one of them gets a very over-the-top southern accent, because this is a 70s anime, and we get to improvise all we want.
Yeah. But also kind of adds to the fact that, sometimes Galactor is like, their average henchman isn't exactly the brightest. But somehow they still cause, like, so much destruction, though. There's a lot of casualties that... I mean, there's been several times where, like, even by episode 50, like, that whole Red Impulse storyline where the planet Earth was gonna get fucked over by a fucking...
And then there are the Galactor Blackbirds, and I was like, whenever... I do honestly feel like they were kind of a wasted opportunity because I
can add to that.
They were going to be like, oh my god, these are going to be like the Galactor version of the Gatchaman. But then it turns out they're the next disposable grunts.
Yeah, because that's the thing, because like there's simply like some ideas that doesn't get utilized right, and then because it happens oh my throat, it happens again in part 2 because okay, because in part 2 like it's now Sadra instead of Berg Katze, and then because later on there's this guy called I forgot his name, I think it's Miester or something like that. He wears all red, and he has like his own henchmen, and they have some of their own soldiers, because there was one episode where they brainwash prisoners and they're all wearing like these black uniforms, and you think they're gonna be a big deal, but it's only one episode thing. And then same thing happens in Gatchaman F, where they have like the costume that a lot of the grunts wear, just that Green Panther thing. Yeah, because there's like some really huge ones. They're like 10 feet tall dudes or something. They're like jacked as fuck. But the thing is, what's so weird is that they look like knights in a way, because they have like, or barbarians, because they have like this long hair, but they all carry these giant broadswords. But the thing is, they're called wrestlers. It's like, why?
Really?
They're called wrestlers, and
this is Gatchaman, not Kinnikuman. You're getting the series mixed up.
Yeah, and then because the first episode they were like super threatening to the main characters, but after that it just become like easily disposable.
That's because I really think that Cyborg 009 versus Gatchaman really needs to happen, because Black Ghost can really cybernetically enhance those.
A lot of the grunt, not just the Blackbirds, but even they're just the standard Galactor.
That's a idea for another time.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think if there's like anything else I wanted to bring up with villains of Gatchaman, because because I also mentioned this here, is that okay, so the original Galactor, in the first series, it could range from like some very goofy stuff to like some very deadly, fatal catastrophes. There's like some weird shifts in 2 and 3, because okay, before the Iron Beast mechas, they all had like different shapes, ranging from like a dragon, insects, and other types of like mostly animal theme.
There is a decent sized variety when it comes to the Iron Beast mecha.
Mm-hmm. But in part 2, though, they all start resembling more like vehicles and spaceships. And a lot of them look like UFOs, actually, which I found a little weird. But then, in part 3, though, all their mechas are like the very first one that shows up is like this gargantuan thing, like the biggest thing ever from Galactor's ever used, and then all the other Iron Beast mechas I started using, it's kind of weird because they're all kind of like somewhat human shaped. They're like basically all the mechas in this one, they walk on 2 feet and they have like some accessories to make them. I guess what I'm trying to say is that they look more toyish. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird blend because I mean, part 1 was like, you know, you could still sell those as toys, but then in part 2 you got like these. They don't look that creative, and then in part 3 it's kind of weird because mechas, I'm not sure the designs are like the right way they should be portrayed, but the one thing I could say for sure is that part 3, the villains with Egil Bossler and like his other army, it started to feel like somewhat like Bright King Boss in some areas because there was definitely a more military look to them compared to like the other villains beforehand.
Yeah, but so what you're saying in terms of variety, the first series probably has some of the best Iron Beast mecha.
Yeah, I'd say that, but I guess what I'm trying to say also that Gatchaman in its entirety does have variety, like with its villains.
It's a variety. Yeah, this actually rarely kind of gets me nowadays. When the title of an episode actually does get me like super excited to see what happens. Like Gatchaman, I do say is one of the recent examples because when I hear a title like attack on the coral reef base, I'm like, holy shit.
Oh yeah, because
those episodes.
Yeah, those episodes should happen in that one.
When they have like an overly dramatic title like that, I mean, the title itself may seem cheesy, but in a series like this, it makes you be like, oh man, shit's gonna go down in this. That's something that really is impressive for something that came out like in the 70s.
That's what I'm surprised with Gatchaman, because with I'm forgetting the guy who actually founded Tatsunoko. And that guy seemed to have like a bunch of ideas, and I know he worked with his brothers on like a bunch of his other shows, but he really had like some things that I didn't expect for its time, like, you know, the fact that they were self-aware of the stuff, and then later shows like Yatterman, which had like a lot of what's the word for it? Meta humor. The fact that something from the 70s had meta humor, like that's something that people do now, not like way back.
Really, really, really meta. And this was back in the day when they were still fresh.
That's another good thing because other superhero animes like before Gatchaman, they were straight up episodic. I don't think they really had like an overarching story.
Alrighty then. So now do we get into the spoilers?
I guess, because I'm not really sure like what else we can add, because I kind of want to wrap this up like within 20 minutes.
First off, let's get the major big spoiler out of the way. Red Impulse is Ken's father.
Yeah, which that's pretty obvious. So. Yeah,
it's really obvious. I do say it is pretty obvious, but it's so well done. You tend to kind of forget about that.
I guess, but I am surprised that the original idea with that was actually in Speed Racer.
Yeah, the original idea where like Racer X is kind of Speed's long lost brother.
Yeah, recently finished that. Speed Racer really feels like a prototype for Gatchaman in some scenes, especially with that relationship. Only that they changed it from the older brother mentor to like the father figure.
The stuff with Ken figuring out that Red Impulse is his father, but the way it's executed makes it kind of tragic because the episode after, Red Impulse like sacrifices himself to destroy that Doomsday device, but the impact that it leaves on Ken is actually very, very well handled. He meets his father after so many years now that he's been missing, and then he openly says, "It's good to see you, Ken, but I have to sacrifice myself." Meeting your father that you've never seen, that you haven't seen again in so many years, kind of just goes off and just sacrifices himself for the fate of the world. You gotta be perfectly honest, that's a lot to take in.
Even like in 2 and F, they actually do bring it up again. There's one good scene in Gatchaman F where he's like, he needs medical attention, and he starts hallucinating, and he sees like his dad.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, and his dad's actually encouraging him like to get up.
And now let's drop the second biggest spoiler. Joe the Condor's parents were actually members of Galactor.
Yeah. I kind of wish they like added a little more to that, because you never see much of who his parents were.
Like that episode where Joe goes back to his old town, and then he meets his childhood friend, and then when he discovers that his parents were Galactor, but they betrayed Galactor. That's of course. And then when he gets shot in the church, and then he's just like, "Leave me! I have Galactor blood inside of me. I don't deserve to be with the Gatchaman anymore."
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of powerful scenes. That's why I'm like so annoyed at how Jude and Jinpei and Ryu don't really have moments like that.
Yeah.
Like Nanbu has a moment like that. Even Dr. Pandora has a moment like. Here's the thing, like in part 2, okay, the villain Sadra, the more episodes you watch of him, especially by the end of it, he just becomes like a really tragic villain.
Yeah. Wait, the villain of
Part
the
2.
second series?
Yeah, Sadra. Like, she just becomes like this very tragic character by the end of it.
And now for the other spoilers, the identity of Berg Katze.
Yeah.
Turns out that he's a guy that. Turns out he's a human that can.
Well, he's a mutant.
Switch between genders.
Yeah, he's a hermaphrodite character, which I'm also kind of wondering if like that episode happened to pop out before the revelation of Devilman, or was it around the same time?
I think so. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that's something I need to check in dates, because I mean it depends one chapter of Devilman when that chapter came out, and then when did that episode come out? Or it's like, oh, look at this, what a quinkydink.
Wow. Yeah, there's that. And as for the remainder, in the final episode, he actually does die. He just falls legs first into a pit of lava, and then when he's no longer used by, when Leader X is just like, yeah, I've shitted on you enough. I'm just gonna toss you aside.
You kind of learn a bit more about Leader X by the very end of part 2, and then again by the very end of F with Leader Z. Leader Z is a surviving piece of Leader X, but he acknowledged himself as a different entity, because later on they keep mentioning, I know, like they mentioned this one henchman, like, I know you worked for Leader X before, so now you work for me, Leader Z, but like, so you're not the same character, but at the same time you kind of are. I don't know, it's like some confusing shit that I'm not sure that we're like thinking ahead.
Galactor actually reveals the identity of Joe, but not to the public, but they openly know who Joe is, because, well, his parents were Galactor, and then they sorely put the puzzles together and like, hey, you're the son of this pair that used to work for Galactor but betrayed us. Much smarter Galactor's gotten. Like the one episode where they make such a big deal of like June losing her shoe because, well, it's connected to her. They analyze the shit out of June's shoe.
Yeah, it's like they use their advanced science.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a...
All those scientists.
I'm a scientist. I've never seen the day where overanalyzing a shoe can work so well for finding out the identity of a superhero.
Yeah, it's like, hey boss, like, there's a shoe that, like, what do you mean there's a shoe that won't burn in the incinerator?
That does kind of say that even if you're a superhero, you can't leave anything of yours behind, because they will figure out.
They do get their shit done most sometimes, because they are like a pretty scary organization.
They do commit a lot of mass genocide, and they start with that right off the bat in the first episode of Gatchaman 2.
Even in F, it happens a lot also. Well, then again, I mean, Galactor basically has like the huge bloody kill count, body count, whatever you call it.
There was the episode where Joe did fight the assassin that killed his parents. I forget which episode that was.
It was pretty early. It's like definitely like around the 20s or 30s.
Oh yeah, probably one of those. And then they do kind of have a flashback of that episode where, again, back to the episode where Joe visits his old childhood town. I was like, what episode is that again? And I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, but I was actually surprised they were able to like extend that episode with that storyline. I was like, oh, okay, that just raises a lot of questions. Like,
that's a little nod.
Yeah,
that's a little nod to continuity there.
Yeah, it's like I want to kill Joe the Condor because he killed my fiance, and then Joe's like, oh, wait, was that the girl? Oh, like, oh shit.
Yeah, like I said, that's back to what I said when it definitely shows like being a superhero has its rewards. But, again, it has its consequences. I think that moment definitely shows the consequences of being a superhero, is that even some of the villains can actually have some humanity to them. Like,
there's an episode of Tekkaman, the original '70s one, that there was an episode where Tekkaman ends up like destroying like this spaceship, but he found out like later on the same episode that it wasn't an enemy spaceship at all. It was just like a regular alien family. So yeah, so the whole episode is about him like being guilted by it and then wanting to like because there was one person that survived.
Well, this is gonna haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, because that's the way how the episode sort of ends, where even though he finds a way for her to get back home, like he feels like he didn't receive any type of punishment, so he's like still wallowing in guilt.
Yeah, and no matter how big of superpowers they are, they're still people. They have real human emotions.
Well, then again, also Kashan has like that war-stricken tone as well.
That's pretty much all the spoiler material that we've gotten.
Well, there is one more, like, spoiler, but...
Oh, really? What?
Like, the very last...
the very last episode.
Yeah, the last two episodes where it's like, well, I don't know if we want to go that far. So, no, I think we should just end it here. Yeah, then we go to part 2, taking place... I don't know, I think it was... I don't remember if they actually do give, like, a date to, like, how many years it takes place after the original, unless they're going by real times of the, real world, so it'll be like 2 to 3 years later. I'm not sure. I want to say it was 2 years later, but I could be wrong.
I will get around to watching more of Gatchaman 2. Well, I watched the first episode in I think the first 2 episodes in Fansa, but it's already licensed, so I'll get around to that.
Yeah, because I don't think you can even find the 3rd series of them. I'm not even sure of that.
Yeah, but it is licensed, so I'll get around to that.
I will let you know that the first few episodes of part 3, it was like pretty like aside from the introduction, like the first 3 or so, a lot of the beginning ones, like nothing really interesting really happens right away. It takes like a while for F to like really get its stride compared to the because 2 like it gets it working pretty quickly, but F. It took a while for me, like, to really get invested in F, and that was, like, halfway through the show.
One of the things I know about Gatchaman F is that Ken gets a cool-ass sword.
Yeah, but that's kind of, like, where my problem begins, because I don't like their vehicles in part...
Oh, they get much...
Well, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes in F, because they don't use bird missiles anymore.
Well, that immediately sucks.
Yeah, and then their vehicles, they all have to rely on...
I can say this right now with Gatchaman 2, again, I really am not digging the new design of the God Phoenix.
Yeah, like, but trust me, you'll like that one more than when you get an F. Trust me, like, F's design is just like, no.
The design is much better in F.
No, the second one is better than the one in F.
Oh, so...
Yeah, F is worse, basically.
So the God Phoenix in F is much worse. So.
Yeah, so, like, it's like... Because there's a lot of steps down in terms of... Because, okay... And with the new God Phoenix, you have like a Paima, you know, that robot there, so now Ryu can get out. You know, so but in F they don't have that extra robot, so now they took a step backwards with Ryu having to stay on the ship, and then the fact that they don't fire bird missiles anymore means that they have to resort to like the there's no Firebird either.
They don't even do the fucking Firebird?
No, there's no Firebird. It just changes into like it's kind of cool, but at the same time you can see like you know we could still have the Firebird combined with this because
it's not as cool as
yeah, because it would have been cooler if the Firebird was there. But okay, so what they do is this thing called like
science technique Firebird.
So I forgot what they called it, something shooter. Well, basically what Ken does is like Ken the Eagle, he takes out the sword, jumps on the top of the ship. And then, like, the whole ship and him starts glowing, so now with him and the sword, they just stab through all the mechas.
So pretty much he kind of took some influence from Goemon the 13th.
Yeah, so it was actually made me think of Tekkaman, because that's what Tekkaman would do when he was flying on Pegasus. He would just cut the UFOs while he's riding it. So now you'll see Ken, like, riding this vehicle. Well, basically their current God Phoenix, I forgot what they called it, and you know you see him slashing through mecha, and he gets on fire and stuff. So that is a cool thing, but I am annoyed that there's no bird missiles. Their vehicles aren't as interesting before.
It does sound a little excessive. Where where you have this huge-ass airship that you can fight against the mecha, but the finishing blow is just one of your teammates gets out of the ship and just stabs a sword in it.
Yeah, because the problem with the sword is that it needs to charge up, so, you could actually destroy those fucking gigantic mechas, but when it's not charged up, it's just a regular sword. So there'll be times where Ken is fighting like a random grunt, and then the sword just falls out of his hand, or... This is what annoys me, too, because their weapons change also. So Ken doesn't have any of his boomerangs anymore, so it's just so stupid when you see him throw his sword at people. It's like, come on, what?
Oh, yeah, so...
Yeah, there's definitely some... Yeah, there's definitely some changes in F that, like, it took me a while to get into it because of those, like...
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of step backwards. I'm like, no? That's not
yeah, when I get to that, I'm just gonna be like...
Yeah, enjoy the hell out of 2. Enjoy the hell out of 2, basically what I'm trying to say. And then when you get to F, it's like, ooh, this is gonna be a while.
When I do actually get to F, I'm just gonna be like, okay.
But the finale for F, like the second to last episode, has some outrageously incredible animation. I have no idea how they managed to accomplish that.
Oh yeah, this was around 19.
Yeah, the 78, 70s.
The 80s, so
yeah, because there was some like ridiculous detail in the second to last episode, and I'm just kind of annoyed that the last episode goes back to regular budget. I was like, shit. But yeah, the last episode is really fucking good. Those last 2 episodes were just so good of an ending. I'm like, I kind of wish there was a Gatchaman 4 just to follow up on 3.
I really do think that. And then there's Gatchaman the movie, which is just which you told me is kind of like just a compilation of all 155 episodes.
Yeah, I saw it recently, and it's not too much because they even reused the exact same audio from the ADV Films dub, so it's not like they redubbed it or anything, as far as I'm aware of.
They just took so pretty much it's kind of just a best of compilation.
Yeah, they just showed the Red Impulse and the Joe the Condor stuff, but it feels kind of rushed. That's sort of the problem, is that it feels better. I think the experience would be better if you actually just watch the actual episodes instead of the movie. But the movie, I want to say the movie image, the picture quality is like a little higher than than the episodes you can find. But the only real differences that I noticed was just the music more than anything. So there are some scenes where the music might be better in the movie, but then there's other times I feel like the anime episodes do it better too. So I don't know. It's like it's not really like it's something you need to go out of your way to see. I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it for this call.
So as for the remainder, I'm your Dead Meister, and stay beautiful.
Yeah, Gatchaman's great.
Yeah, the